All right. Welcome everyone to today's webinar on trends, tips, technology that are shaping estate planning and wealth management in 2022 and beyond. Just trying to take a look here. It looks like everyone is now slowly trickling in here. That's great. I see more and more guests joining us. So what we're going to do right now, folks, is just for the next minute, we'll just give everyone, the other guests joining, just a little bit more time to join us as well, too, just to get settled in before we officially kick things off with a little bit of housekeeping, just some minor items to go through before then jumping into some introductions for our expert and our rockstar panel that we have with us today. And then, of course, we're going to jump right into the live discussion, which, you know, is why all of you have joined us today, or at least I hope so. In the meantime, on behalf of FutureVault, Celent, and our panelists today, just thank you for taking time out of your schedules to join us for the hour ahead. We certainly do appreciate each and every one of you being here with us today, and we're looking forward to the conversation ahead. There's going to be a lot of great insight coming from the experts themselves that they're going to unpack. So again, let's just give it about another minute or so before we officially kick things off. In the meantime, actually, if you do happen to have any questions for us, please feel free to use the Q&A. There should be a little box down at the bottom middle there. You can go ahead and ask your questions if there's any questions you have for us ahead of time. I don't know if we'll have any time to address them right now. We might be able to, but if not, what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on questions until the very end, and then we'll make sure that we address those questions during our question period, which should be about 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how today's live discussion ends up going. So again, let's just wait a little bit more before we officially get started today. This is usually the part of the webinar where the moment of silence is usually killing everyone, panelists and guests included, right? I still see a few more trickling in, which is good to see. Okay. I think we're in a good place to start. So that minute is definitely up. So again, I speak for my colleagues in our panel here today and just saying that we're thrilled for today's conversation and for, of course, everyone taking time out of your day. With that being said, let's jump right into some of the housekeeping items, and that way we can get this portion out of the way and just make sure everyone's on the same page, that today's discussion runs smoothly. Before I start talking about those items that you see up on the screen, I just did want to give a quick shout out to Brittany from the FutureVault team, who is actually working her magic behind the scenes today. So Brittany's the one responsible for making sure that everything is running smoothly and that the webinar goes as planned. So thank you again, Brittany. First up, Q&A. So yes, there is an open question box near the middle bottom of your screen where you can openly ask our panelists any questions you have at any point of the webinar. We will do our best to address those questions in the chat. However, we do plan on, like I was mentioning earlier, just carving out at least 5 minutes at the end where we can then table those questions and the answers. Webinar polls. So once again, Brittany will be coordinating the polls. We've got about 3 polls going out at different times during today's webinar, all on different topics that our panelists will be covering. So, you know, feel free to submit an answer and get yourself involved with those polls. As a guest, I do believe that you will then get an aggregated summarization of those polls once they have concluded. Live recording. So yes, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available at a future date in case anyone did want to watch the recording. Of course, there's going to have to be a final compliance review and approval from our guests before that does happen. Today's topics. So today's going to be all about unpacking trends, tips, technology, all influencing estate planning and better yet just wealth management holistically, what we're noticing this year, and then what we foresee to happen well into the future as well too. So again, our all-star panel roster will be sharing insights directly from what they're noticing from probably a 10,000-foot view, as well as what's actually taking place in their own firms as well too. So perfect segue into me just quickly introducing our experts. So today we're joined by Jean Sullivan, Head of Wealth Management at Celent, Diana Oddi, Director of Marketing and Practice Management at Mandeville, Doug Robinson, who is the CEO of Veritable Wealth Advisory, and Bill LaCasse, who is the owner at SRG Financial Advisors. Myself, my name is Christian Borgazin. I am the Vice President of Marketing here at FutureVault. Prior to joining FutureVault, I spent several years working for various fintech startups with an emphasis on providing financial wellness and accessible financial planning to households all across North America. And this is a good segue into just quickly introducing who FutureVault is and what we do. So FutureVault is an industry-leading provider of secure document exchange and digital vault solutions. We work closely with financial advisory, wealth management firms, registered investment advisors, family offices, broker-dealers, you name it. We help these organizations and their advisors materially improve operational efficiencies, compliance, and end client value propositions. FutureVault was founded by Scott Patterson and Michael Bradley in 2014 with the underpinning theme of what we're calling and what we continue to call is personal life management, a new category that we're pioneering here. And our thesis and our belief is that everyone we know and everyone that you and I all know will have a personal life management digital vault that will allow them essentially to efficiently manage their life's content, their life's most important documents and information within one secure and accessible location, and that being the digital vault. So this represents a massive paradigm shift just in how information is currently being delivered, managed across all of the different stakeholders. So really it's a win-win-win for all involved. Now, I think I might have spent a little too long on that, so my apologies. Jean, why don't we just do a quick introduction of yourself and the role that Celent plays in the industry?
Sure. So I'm head of wealth management at Celent, and I've actually been in the industry for 20 years, having worked for Cerulli Associates. I own my own firm, Dover Financial Research, and also worked with Ezra Group as head of research for them. Celent is a leading technology-based consulting and research firm, and we follow the industry trends across several different practice areas, such as insurance, banking, and wealth management.
That's great. All right, and we will go on to Diana.
There you go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diana Oddi, and I am the head of marketing and practice management at Mandeville Private Client. I have been in the industry now, my goodness, for over 20 years, and I've worn many different hats. In my current capacity here at Mandeville, I lead all of the marketing and promotional efforts for the Mandeville Group, including its branding, its client and advisor digital experience, content marketing strategy, and I'm also responsible for the development and delivery of the advisor professional development program. And I really work closely with our advisors and support them in the execution of their practice management, business development, and marketing strategies. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Diana. And next up, I believe, is Doug. There we go.
Good afternoon. I co-founded Veritable Wealth Advisory about 3 years ago. We're an independent financial planning focused investment firm that has a fairly robust institutional style investment management division. We're fiduciaries. We run 100% discretionary practice and are 100% fee-based in our business. With 13 full-time staff, we have 3 separate offices across Ontario, and our value proposition, I'd say, is primarily driven by our financial planning, sort of led by retirement planning. We do a lot of tax planning, and estate planning, sort of our third major piece. And we have a big focus on business owners, helping business owners run businesses and ultimately get to succession plans and preparing for that. So on a personal note, surprisingly, I've been married for 27 years. Somebody's tolerated me, and I I have two children. They're both young adults in their 20s. I think they have credentials to be professional students now because I've paid for more than 10 years of combined education for them. We're very hopeful that we're going to have a chiropractor and a civil engineer at the end of all of this. And then I guess most surprisingly, I ended up with a COVID puppy who's turning 2 years old, and he's going to have a surprising tendency to bark at exactly the wrong time during Zoom meetings. So if he greets everybody, his name's Whiskey.
That's great. Love it. Love it. Last but certainly not least, Bill.
We run an independent financial planning practice. We are total holistic planners. We try to encourage our clients to allow us to be 100% part of their financial life. I'm proud to say that we have an internal tax practice as well, but I'm proud to say that probably 99% of our clients, we control 100% of their assets. That's something that we'd worked towards from the very beginning. We've grown over the last 30 some odd years. I have the main office location in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. If you are familiar with the Netflix show Ozarks, it is about a financial planner at Lake of the Ozarks. That is not me, just so that you know. It's a pretty exciting story that they run through that. But if you haven't seen it, you need to take a look at it. But we also have offices in Columbia, Missouri, and in Lee's Summit, Missouri, which is just outside of Kansas City. We are working at this point to transition to the next generation. So I've probably got another 4 or 5 years of working fairly hard at this, and then I'm hoping to maybe travel for 90 days and then come into the office and review clients for 90 days and just kind of keep a cycle of doing that as I go on into the future. So looking forward to talking about this subject. This is something that's near and dear to me. So this is going to be a fun day.
That's great. And that 90-day cycle certainly sounds like a great idea. So I definitely encourage you to do that as soon as you possibly can, Bill, without rushing you into semi-retirement, of course. One thing Bill forgot to mention, and I only know this because I recently watched a YouTube video, is that he's actually also an expert in life hacks. I did see a video where he provided some really great and actually really useful life hacks. And apologies for getting off topic here. So if you're ever drinking white wine and it's a little room temperature, instead of trying to go into the freezer and grab an ice cube, as per Bill's recommendation, make sure you freeze your white grapes ahead of time, and then you just pop a white grape into that glass of wine. And I'll tell you this, my partner thanks you for it, and she definitely owes you more than one. That's for sure, Bill. Okay, now let's get started. So, Gene, we're gonna dive right into this, starting with you. So, in your role, of course, where you sit very close to all things taking place in the industry as it relates to emerging trends, tools, technology, practice management, you name it. My question for you, on behalf of the audience, of course, and I know you're going to run through these slides, but what are the major macro and micro themes taking place across the industry, and even more specifically with estate planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, if we can flip to the next slide, I actually have a slide on this. So great setup. Thank you, Christian. So Celent has identified 5 high impact areas across wealth management. And these are the areas that will have the greatest influence on wealth management and, by extension, estate planning. So the first area is really enabling client engagement. And by enabling client engagement, what we mean is personalization. And I'm sure everybody on this panel and probably everybody in the audience has heard of the trend toward personalization. And personalization really means not only delivering personalized solutions, but also enabling a personalized client experience. So in other words, this is a mantra that's used within the industry, but it does, relate to personalization, which is clients want to be met where and how they prefer. So meeting clients wherever and however they prefer is really important in the industry right now. And so we've been tracking that particular trend for a while, and it does influence every component of wealth management and as well as digital estate planning. I think the second area, which is not new, and the industry's been working on this for a long time, but it still is on our radar screen, is automating advisor workflows. We're really looking at mostly automating the front end of the advisor workflow, but any enhancement to that process is a big benefit to advisors. So to the extent that you can integrate with an advisor's dashboard or workstation, or integrate the process, that's a huge win for an advisor. The third category is really embracing financial wellness. And again, financial wellness is a term that's been used throughout the industry, but that's really looking at providing clients with a more holistic view of their financial situation. Clients have increasingly complicated financial lives, and they don't want just an investment solution. They want you as an advisor to understand their entire financial life. And how can you as an advisor really relate to them and provide them with a solution that they need both currently and long term. And then I guess the fourth area that we're looking at is really enhanced security and compliance capabilities. Given the increased regulatory scrutiny, everybody is looking for more compliance tools, reg techs, et cetera. And to the extent that you're offering an enterprise solution, compliance capabilities are often a requirement by enterprises right now. And to the extent that you can also help them do their regulatory reporting or auditing, that's a really big win for enterprises as well. And then finally, it's really leveraging technologies, leveraging technologies that enable scale, innovation, and efficiency. So if we can go to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about those technologies, because I think that these are really important. And these are the technologies that we believe most wealth managers, and certainly the firms that support them, need to have in place to be competitive. And that's mobile, cloud computing. They have to be able to digitize their offerings, and API networking. So these are the technologies that are really not optional anymore for most players. They're really strategic imperatives, and I can't overstate that enough. So we're seeing a lot of firms move in this direction. In terms of cloud computing even, I'll just give you an example. We just completed a research study looking at benchmarking wealth management firms, and they have actually accelerated their move to the cloud. So that's just an indication of how important cloud-based solutions are now to the industry. And these all touch on digital estate planning as well. So next slide, I guess. So one of the trends that we saw, and this is not a new trend, but I think it's really interesting when you think about digital estate planning, is we saw COVID accelerating the demand for digital solutions, and especially digital estate planning. And I had read that in a number of different areas, but then I went out and I looked at the statistics. And on the left-hand side, you can see some of the statistics that were garnered by a LegalZoom survey. And I'd like to read a couple of those to you. This survey was done in 2020, mid-2020, late 2020, and 32% of adults under 35 said that they wrote a will because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So clearly that was on their mind. Estate planning, writing wills, getting the right resources in place were something that a lot of people hadn't thought about until COVID. 33% of American adults believe that the COVID pandemic made it more important to create a will or an estate plan. More Americans were searching online will during April 2020 than at any other time since 2011. And then finally, 54% of American adults would encourage a loved one with COVID to create a will or estate plan. So COVID clearly accelerated the demand for estate planning and a digital estate planning, obviously, because just the fact that people were in their homes that required more digital collaboration, digital distribution became increasingly important. So on the right-hand side, you can see what's happening then across the industry, but also in terms of digital estate planning, is meeting clients again, wherever and whenever they choose to interact. And on the far left, there's a little person, and that little person represents the DIY type of digital solution, which is a very simplistic kind of solution, maybe for someone who doesn't have complicated estate planning needs. And on the left, on the right-hand side is a professional. And that person is really either an estate planner or a financial advisor, and that they're really working with people. That's a B2B kind of solution, and they're working with people who have more complicated needs. So if we go to the next slide, you know, I find this slide really interesting because the ability to handle our digital assets has become really important. Our online lives have become increasingly complicated and prolific. If you look below at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that the average American consumer has more than 90 accounts with usernames and passwords. And every single one of those is part of your digital estate. Now, this is just an example of the types of digital assets we have. And it's not nearly all inclusive. So the idea of now really having a way to organize them, store them, and create them as part of your digital estate is becoming more and more important with people. So if we can flip to the next slide, estate planning solutions. So as these trends are emerging, estate planning solutions are also emerging. Our digital estate planning solutions are also emerging, and they're really emerging across the digital spectrum. You know, we talked a little bit about the DIY solutions or the B2C solutions, which you can see on the left-hand side, and then you can see the advisor-led solutions on the right-hand side. So as I said before, B2C solutions really are more targeted solutions, more point solutions. They're meant to service clients who have more simplistic estate needs, maybe mass affluent clients or maybe younger clients that don't really have complicated estate lives. And on the right-hand side, but you know, some of the capabilities within those solutions are, you know, pretty straightforward capabilities: encrypted cloud-based storage, the ability to upload documents, store digital assets, checklists that tell you kind of where you stand in terms of providing the information that's needed to create the digital estate, as well as some educational components. And then on the right-hand side, these are enterprise solutions. They're more B2B solutions, and they're typically SaaS-based enterprise offerings. They you know, more complicated. They will integrate with an advisor CRM or dashboard. They often provide enterprise capabilities such as admin solutions or compliance. They'll use advanced technologies such as OCR, digital signatures, AI search capabilities. So they're more complicated solutions, and they're meant to really service the advisor. And in between, we have hybrid solutions. And there aren't a lot of hybrid solutions. I found that most of the solutions are either one or the other, but there are some hybrid solutions. And they kind of blend the components of both the B2C solution and the B2B solution. And by that, I mean, you know, there might be access to a digital vault for a certain and more of a DIY type of capability. And then they, you know, could provide access to a network of financial planners. So it's kind of a blend of the two solutions. But right now, what we're seeing in the industry is there's more of a segmented approach to the industry. And so if we look at the next slide, this is not all inclusive by any stretch of the imagination, but it does give you a good example of who the players are across the industry. And you can see on the left-hand side, sort of the DIY types of solutions, and the right-hand side, the B2B solutions. And some of the solutions are sort of a little bit in between in terms of offering some elements of a hybrid solution. I will say that I don't know if anybody's heard of T3, but T3 is an organization that goes out and surveys various you know, broker dealers as well as RIAs. And this year, actually last year, they created an estate planning category. So they go out and they benchmark the various technology solutions across the advisor's workflow. This year, they decided that they were going to create an estate planning category. So that's a testament to how important digital estate planning is becoming. And this area is just going to continue to grow, not only, you know, as we look at these solutions, but there are other solutions emerging and other types of capabilities emerging as well in the industry. So we can go to the final slide. We think that, again, this area will continue to grow. The core industry trends will continue to push the growth across the digital estate planning segment. And I think that the trends that are really going to begin to push continue to push this area will be the fact that wealth management firms want to offer a broader set of capabilities to their clients. This kind of falls under financial wellness, but financial advisors want to be able to again, meet their clients where they need to be met and provide the types of solutions that they need. So we're going to see more and more broker dealers, RIAs, and even B2C solutions out there in the marketplace. The idea that digitization is democratizing various segments across the wealth management industry is also huge. We're seeing not only in terms of digital estate planning, but just across the industry, firms are looking to reach customers that they haven't been able to reach. And those are typically mass affluent customers, younger customers, and they're doing that via mobile applications through digital platforms. And again, advisor workflows, the ability to kind of embed this type of capability into an advisor workflow will also become increasingly important. And to be a competitive solution provider, I think in this space, in any space, and I know I've just said this, but the solution providers will need to leverage those 4 technologies that we talked about. So in general, going forward, we think there's a lot of positive momentum in this marketplace, and it'll be exciting to continue to watch it. So thanks so much.
That's great. Yeah, that's fantastic, Jean. I mean, there's certainly a lot to chew on there with all of the things taking place and shaping and the momentum behind the industry, and of course dive deeper into as well. So we appreciate your insight, from your personal point of view and from Celent's as well too. A few things stood out to me. I mean, the 5 impact areas that you had started out with, that is definitely something that really resonates with us, and it's so foundational to everything we do here at FutureVault. And personally, as a consumer, I mean, I really do feel like the way the majority of services are now being offered to me have changed, all in good ways. I mean, there's a lot more accessibility, there's a lot more personalization, there's more, at least, consideration for the collaborative type of piece, and importantly, security, right? Especially when you're dealing with confidential information and documents that you alluded to. So security should always come first and foremost, definitely. Bill, why don't we go to you next, and let's take some time to sort of add to what we just discussed and talk about technology, which was a major piece, of course, which Jean had just went through. But without giving away any of your trade secrets, of course, can you tell us a little bit about how SRG thinks about and embraces technology as a major add-on to your
Sure.
value proposition that you're providing clients?
And I got to tell you, I'm not too concerned about sharing trade secrets, because I don't think anybody on this call is anywhere in my network. So more than happy to give you all the information about a lot of the things that we do. But as an independent advisor, it is so important to leverage your time and your efforts in everything that you do. But really, one of the big reasons why we use technology is ultimately we're looking to try to make it easier for our clients to do business with us. And the easier we can make it for a client to be able to do business with us, of course, the more clients that we're going to have. The things that we use, I got to say, first and foremost, I've got to give credit where credit is due. Our broker dealer, FMO, RIA, they encourage the implementation of all types of technology. As a matter of fact, I have heard them being described. They're basically a technology firm that just became really, really good at doing financial services. And so everything that they help us with is a technical format, and just about in everything that they do. Another area that has really kind of tied a lot of the stuff together for us is a company called Advisor Protocol. They have helped us with our branding and our process strategies as far as being able to implement and be effective with a lot of the different types of technology that we use. We have done local radio show for many, many years. We have just started in the last year or so doing local television. Also do podcasts, all of that type of stuff. Of course, we like the initial impact that it has whenever it's broadcast, but probably more important is that it creates content for all of our advisors to be able to use in a lot of the other technologies that we employ. We're something that we are just kind of finalizing right now and getting started with. We actually have what we call talking brochures and a talking intro kit. What I mean by that is that if you're looking at a brochure, wouldn't it be nice if your voice could tell them what it is that they're looking at? Or even better yet, how many people have had somebody come in for a first appointment and you're expecting to see husband and wife, but only one of them shows up. And you've spent an hour with that person telling them what it is you're going to do for them, and you're hoping that within the next 5 minutes when they get home, they can express all of those ideas to their partner when they're talking. This is the ability for me to once again, or any of our advisors, to be able to kind of have a hands-on and have that talking intro kit to explain what it is that people are really looking at. We also have an in-house audio and video production facility where we are able to create a lot of the audio and video content and stuff that we need for marketing and other things to enhance the technologies that we have. Of course, website, just like everybody in the world, everybody's got a website, but we're in a position right now where we are rebranding and are in a gigantic update with that. And I'll get into that just a little bit more here as we go. But, of course, the more we roll out FutureVault, the more that the website becomes a crucial part of what it is that is going to let people know that we have that service or have that additional piece available to them. Of course, we're doing all types of drip marketing, social media. Once again, that's where a lot of the content that we create in other formats get used in that direction. And of course, one of the things that I heard the other person speak about just a little moment ago is that you need to accommodate your client. So, of course, we're using Zoom, WebEx, Teams, many other different types of formats, just whatever it is that the client is comfortable in being able to utilize. We have noticed that with COVID, suddenly the older generation has taken a 10-year leap into technology. And, the only way they were going to get to see grandkids was going to be on some sort of a back and forth chat where you could have, like a FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it might be. So we're finding that they're starting to adapt a lot of these types of technologies if you can provide to them the technology that they're already familiar with. That seems to be a really big key. We also employ a Redtail CRM system. The big things that we're seeing in that really, really help is, using note sections, the different process sections and the workflow systems that are inside of that. Utilizing those allows somebody like me who's been in the business for 30 some odd years to take knowledge and things that I have gleaned over the years and having a process in place for younger advisors to be able to pick up from and go forward, answer questions that they maybe not have faced themselves. A lot of times I rely on the fact that I've been doing this a long time, and so I know a lot of the answers. So by having those workflows and processes in place, it certainly does help that younger generation. Also, we use Calendly, and we're starting to use that more and more. That is basically an automated appointment setting tool that works well. If you know how to set it up with Redtail, they can be seamless. It can be a matter of having a client set their own appointment and then have it appear in your Redtail CRM. We also use Allbridge as a aggregator. I've heard it said that if you are not aggregating accounts, or the idea of taking business that is held away from you, if it's at the bank or wherever it might be, if you cannot show your clients those documents and depend on them to bring you those documents, makes it tough sometimes to do a good job for the client. But I've heard it said that if you are not aggregating, you will be aggregated by somebody who is. So, I think that's something that we all have to look at as we're going on into the future. And now that we've got FutureVault, my initial thought for FutureVault was to replace kind of the dated and underutilized PFO, personal financial organizer. Almost everybody has some sort of a beautiful leather binder or a nice a file case or something that has their name all over it. Wonderful thing, but the problem is once you give that to the clients, you lose control of that piece. And the story I tell to kind of tie together our holistic financial planning, one of the last things I talk about was always the personal financial organizer, with the idea of saying two things that over the 30 some odd years that I've done this, two things that came up a lot in my early career would be somebody would come in and say, maybe if they've been a client for a couple of years, and would say, Bill, today in the mail I got a statement on a life insurance policy that my mother bought me when I was 6 months old, and it had $600 in it, and I'd kind of forgotten all about it. But if something had happened to me, I know nobody would have known where that was at or what the possibilities might be with that. So we needed a way to be able to accommodate that. The personal financial organizer seemed to help in that we got all of those documents in one spot. The other thing is on estate planning, and I always use my wife and I as an example in that my kids know that we have a few assets, and they know about some of the assets, but I'm not ready to tell them about everything that we have at this point. But if something happens to us, they have to know everything that is available to them and where it's at and how to activate it and how to get to it. So the personal financial organizer seemed to be the solution to doing that, and we did that for a lot of years. Now, the problem was always this. Like I said, once you gave it to the client, you kind of lost control of that. I'll never forget experimenting with a absolutely gorgeous file box that had our name on it, and was I thought this is really going to be the ultimate here. We're going to get everybody all fixed up in this file box. They're going to be able to bring that in for reviews. And one day I just happened to see one of my clients out at the grocery store, and the back was up on the back of his car, and there sat my box. And I was kind of curious, and I said, hey, I see you're carrying your financial stuff with you. And he goes, oh, he had his ammo in it. He turned it into an ammo box. So realized that, okay, there's a problem with these personal financial organizers. So as soon as we saw FutureVault, we realized that, okay, this is going to be our opportunity to have 100% control of the front side of this, what's inside of that vault, the layout of it, how it is there. But as we are using it and getting more familiar with it, I keep finding more and more things that are going to be just an absolutely incredible tool for us as we're going forward. One of the big ones will be, once we get somebody set up in the FutureVault, they're going to have their financial plan, all of their estate documents, statements, all of the things that we would need for any type of a meeting. So when we have someone come in for a review, that's going to be up on the screen as they come in the door. And we're going to be able to then go through their entire plan and show them the financial plan and how to set up. That is extremely important at times like we're having right now, where the market is so volatile and everybody's a little bit nervous and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen day by day. If you can keep them focused on the fact that, yes, we have a plan in place and here's how it's going to work, and we talked about the fact that the market is going to go up and the market is going to go down, but here's being able to see that in a review, I think is going to be just absolutely outstanding as we're going forward. And like I said, FutureVault just keeps exceeding our expectations. Every time I turn around, there's another little feature that I'd get an idea and think, oh gosh, I can use that here or I can use that there. But what it's going to end up being for us at this point is we're going to use this as our cloud-based informational management hub. It is going to be the hub that we use to kind of be the bow on top of everything else that we're doing. Now, when you start tying together, where in some cases we had a whole bunch of stuff that was just one-off marketing. We had all these different initiatives, all these different pieces of technology and stuff that we're using, but we're finding by incorporating this with FutureVault, we're able to, we're putting together kind of a seamless client experience that is friendly for them to use, that it is a total package of what they need, and we don't lose control of it. So of all the things that we're doing, I'm starting to see FutureVault as maybe the thing that does tie all of the stuff that we've been doing together.
That's great, Bill. Certainly appreciate the candor there in diving into all of the technologies and how you're using it at SRG. It really sounds like there was a moment in time where you guys had said, hey, we're going to invest a lot more of the technology resources into client-facing applications and just making sure that we provide a frictionless experience, which, Gene, to your point, that was one of the big takeaways as well, too, that we're starting to see. So certainly appreciate that. I'm going to switch this one over to Doug now. And, given what we've already talked about up until this point, I think we can all agree, and even before we jumped on this webinar, that technology is table stakes to helping firms scale and increase capacity. But my question to you, Doug, is, can technology do it all? Really, what is technology good at? And maybe what isn't it so good at?
I think the other panelists have done a fantastic job of talking about what it's really good at. So I'll really just summarize it by saying it makes us more efficient. It's easier for clients and our advisors. And really importantly, it's very secure, done properly. So that's what we need to do, is make sure our technology is secure. But the things I find it can't do, and this, you refer to the human factor, is especially in estate planning. Estate planning is predominantly an emotional topic. The first will we ever did, my wife just sat there and cried the entire time in front of the lawyer. She just sat there and sobbed, and it was very emotional, obviously. And there's a whole human element there, and it really can't talk about it. Technology can't talk about difficult issues. It can't sense clients' feelings. It can't sense their emotions. And when you're having these discussions with people and you're talking about children, you're talking about the challenges children have, you're talking about families, multiple families, a new partner's children. There's so many places that we can go that emotions become the driving force of the conversation. And we really need to have the human factor to be able to sort of think those things through and come up and present actual solutions for people. So I would say that technology doesn't make us unique. Our firm embraces it, but it's certainly not part of our value proposition.
Right. Okay. So you're using it to add on to your value proposition to augment what you're able to offer your clients. How do you talked about the human factor there, and you gave a little bit of an example, and obviously without going, too far into the weeds there, but how do you go about doing that at Veritable? Do you have a process in place when you work with a client when it comes to, building a financial plan and specifically in this case, working on an estate plan with them?
Yeah, we do, Christian. Estate planning is, we're a fee-based business, so we charge a flat fee for financial planning, but our fees are charged as a percentage of assets we manage. So we don't get paid to do estate planning directly, so it can easily fall to the bottom of a discussion board. So we put it right on our agenda. For every client review meeting, estate planning is an agenda item. And the first thing we have to do in that agenda is determine, is the plan actually up to date and valid? And so we're going to have the wills already there in the vault. We can go take a look at and review it in advance of the meeting. A lot of times it's not adequate. So another option that comes up is it's actually inadequate right at that moment. And yet the client, it's much easier for them to procrastinate and not do anything about it. And that's really, really common, that, we just can't motivate people to really want to talk about this subject. Sometimes in those meetings, we'll determine that there is a deficiency, and we'll actually agree that they're going to try and solve that. So what we actually do then is we would book a separate estate planning meeting, and we would go through all of the issues at that stage. I have this, what I call this series of stories that I tell to clients who are in that procrastination stage. And my stories get more and more disturbing as time goes on to try and motivate them to actually get into that estate planning meeting. But what we end up doing is we get into the estate planning meeting, and that's where we have these human discussions. Prior to that meeting, if we don't have their estate planning documents, wills, power of attorneys, we have those clients upload them for us. And it's sometimes it's very hard to get a client to embrace technology. And so one of the things that we do at our firm to try and help an older generation embrace technology is we actually have somebody who's younger who really knows technology, and they can actually go into somebody else, go right into their computer with them, and like they do at support desks, and show a client physically how to do this and how to navigate it, so they can actually see their screen and help them out at a much deeper level than just telling them, could you please do this, or asking them to do it. So once we've got that meeting and we go through all the hard issues, once we've kind of concluded those hard issues, our firm will then draft a letter to the lawyer. We'll put the client's entire net worth statement in there, the ownership structure of all their assets, their beneficiary designations, all of those key points that lawyers need. A lot of lawyers in our local community, they already have their own uptake form or intake form. And so we have a lot of those intake forms. So we can pre-populate a lot of that information just from our own technology, our own CRM, and our discussions with our client. And that can really make the process easier for clients. So they get in to see the lawyer, and when they get there, the lawyer already has a really good idea of what the wishes are, because we've had that summarized in our letter to the lawyer. The lawyer goes through their piece, and they'll draft a draft of the will. The draft, we ask the client to give the lawyer permission to upload it to the vault. We give them the access, they can upload it, and we can then drag it from there and securely, and then review the draft. We almost always find things that are inconsistent between the actual will and the letter we sent to the lawyer. So we make any changes we need to make at that point, and then the client signs off on the whole thing, and then we're able to retain the document for our future planning.
That's great. So a lot of, again, I'm hearing a lot of this common theme of putting that client experience first in the relationship building aspect of it. Doug, it sounds like you're leveraging technology for a lot of front and back office efficiencies, or solving for inefficiencies, including administrative tasks. And, what Jean had alluded to earlier, a lot of the workflow piece that's involved with that, capturing data, collecting documents, securing documents, etc. But when it comes to, actually sitting down and working with a client, it's sort of, you can't replace that manual human intervention where you're able to actually build a relationship that allows you to better understand, their financial picture, which sometimes is captured in technology, but more importantly, probably, especially in the case of estate planning, their life situation, right? That's what I'm gathering. That's great. Thanks for that, Doug. Really appreciate your insight there. Diana, let's switch gears, and let's not necessarily switch gears. Sorry. Let's go over to you to talk a little bit about, from your perspective, really your viewpoint, being someone who's at the head office level. You're largely responsible for leading the practice management initiatives at Mandeville. I'm curious to know, what have you seen in the market as far as technology and interactions with advisors and clients go, and how has that shaped and transformed your business for enabling your advisors?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Well, we recognized early on that the world of wealth management was really going through a revolution, and that the future of wealth management was really digital. And Jean, earlier on in this conversation, she had gone through some of the major trends, and those trends really form the basis of our digital roadmap. And some of them are, for instance, the digital movement and its ability to really advance workflows and improve efficiencies and further open lines of communication, the growing desire to have constant, anytime, anywhere access to information, this idea of wanting to go paperless, businesses individuals wanting to go paperless. The wet signature is a thing of the past, right? It's been replaced now by efficient digital systems. And of course, we recognize that there was this impending intergenerational transfer of wealth. There's $700 billion anticipated to transfer to the next generation by 2026 in Canada. So this transition is not always good news for advisors. It's not always good news because the statistics are actually alarming. They say that 88% of heirs actually fire their financial advisor, their parents' financial advisor. So that's very telling. And so many advisors, we recognize that they may find themselves in a predicament where the future of their business could change instantly. These heirs, they're digital natives. They've grown up with technology. They've experienced it for most of their lives. I know with my little ones, when my little one was 1 year old, he'd go up to the TV and try to, move it left, right? And so they're very comfortable with technology, and in fact, they prefer it. It's very intuitive for them, and they actually prefer it to human interaction, and they prefer it as a way to obtain information and to conduct business. So this preference has implications for how these heirs will collect information and how they will make decisions around this inherited wealth. And so for us, this is very significant. This tech-savvy generation of wealth builders and the heirs to this baby boomer fortune really form the basis and were real big key drivers for our major thrust towards creating a digital client and advisor experience. Because for us, it was really important. We wanted to be very proactive in this. We wanted to make sure that our advisors don't become part of that statistic. To Doug's point, we're looking to digitize, not dehumanize. So that's very important. And we really want to ensure that our advisors are enabled to cultivate relationships with the next generation so they can retain those assets during the significant transfer. We want to make sure that our advisors are prepared, to cater to each client's preferred interaction channel, as Jean mentioned. Right? We want to ensure that our advisors can gain the next generation's confidence and demonstrate that they too can provide a seamless, on-demand, comprehensive digital client experience on par with any of the digital platforms that they interact with on a daily basis. So this has been very important for us. And from a practice management perspective, well, I can tell you we've spent a significant amount of time working with our advisors, enlightening them on and educating them on these trends and encouraging them to be open-minded, to embrace technology, to embrace a digital strategy. And it started really with encouraging them to embrace a digital content strategy. And I can tell you that initially, they were slow to adopt. They were slow to adopt, as many of our advisors really preferred traditional ways of doing business, and they really held on to certain perceptions. They really questioned, if there was a return on investment with all of their efforts. Would that technology really equate to client conversion, right? Or whether or not it would require too much time or resources, or simply act as a distraction to their business development efforts. So we really had to take the time to help advisors understand the value and the benefits that technology could bring to their business. It could help them to stay relevant, to participate in the conversation, to engage with the next generation, to attract new clientele, the ability to run a more smoother, productive practice, and to provide for better client outcomes. So really, I found that it really just takes time, and it takes reinforcement and results, of course, because once they started applying and being open to technology, they can eventually see the benefits. And today, with our digital content platform, we're very happy because now we have an adoption rate of over 70%. So again, that's far from where we started initially. And to Jean's point, the pandemic certainly is an excellent example, because at the beginning of the pandemic, we essentially had two groups of advisors. The one group who jumped in to this new way of communicating with clients, and then the other group that were perhaps they dug in a little bit and wanted to wait it out. Maybe they held on to traditional preferred ways of doing business, sitting across the kitchen table, looking at their clients in the eyes, or hosting client events across boardroom tables and over dinner, but eventually, they had to relent, right? And they had to be open to technology and open to new ways of communicating. And they're so happy they did. I often hear stories of, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. It's a new way of communicating. It's a new way to have my voice and my message reach a greater breadth than, across. I've been able to expand my net to different jurisdictions and maybe different provinces. So it's certainly helped in their business development efforts. So at Mandeville, we really believe that technology can really support virtually every aspect of the client relationship. And some of the other digital tools that we've launched to enhance the experience include, all of our e-signature capabilities. We had launched those over 5 years ago, but of course they've added to the advisor experience because the transition is seamless and has minimal human error, and it's much quicker. And we're very proud that we launched our mobile app. And this is wonderful because it gives our clients, or give our advisors, their clients, an opportunity and a client-friendly way to check their accounts from anywhere, anytime, right? And also they have access to all of our financial literacy, via our Investor Academy that's on our app, as well as our YouTube channel. So we're really happy about that. And of course, our newest collaboration with FutureVault and the launch of Mandeville Vault. And so we're very happy about that because, again, it further leverages the paperless trend. It further leverages the wealth transfer trend. And it really serves to really enhance the digital and client experience by giving clients access to a secured and structured digital vault where they can deposit, they can manage their personal, their legal, their financial documents in a really, in an encrypted private cloud. And also this vault is really in alignment with the wealth transfer trajectory, because it's a proactive way to engage family members and all of your trusted advisors in an estate planning process that is fully integrated. And so, as Bill mentioned earlier, death is a very stressful time for a family, as we know. And we've all heard stories, unfortunate stories of families essentially being left in the dark, not being able to track very important documents, wills, powers of attorneys, deeds, statements. And in some cases, they may not even know the name of their loved one's lawyer, accountant, financial advisor. So they're really not able to have an understanding of their loved one's wishes. And this just adds another layer of stress to an already stressful situation. And so the vault is a proactive way to approach estate planning. It's a proactive way to really engage the next generation, to engage your trusted advisor so they're all on the same page, which really makes for a nice, seamless, organized wealth transfer. So we're really happy about that.
That's great. I mean, certainly a lot to unpack there. A couple of things stand out to me, and I'm just looking at the questions actually that we have coming through. And you did address that just now, and it was one of my questions that I wanted to follow on as well too, but I'm glad it was asked by our guest. So kind of the same questions. I'll just read them out to you. Maybe I'll direct them to you, Diana, if you're okay with this. Is how would you help remove the barriers with old generations in embracing technology? And more so on the point that you were just getting at is how do you ensure or help advisors to embrace these digital movements and these digital technologies? I mean, certainly one of the biggest challenges is, you know, for firms across the industry, of course, is introducing new technologies and then rolling out technology and getting, you know, advisors to adopt it, because it's a lot of time, effort, and resources that go into that. You talked a little bit about that. Is there anything else that maybe you would want to add there? What have you seen work very well?
I think that you just have to be consistent. You have to be consistent and take the time to help them understand the value. And anytime we've rolled out any initiative or launched anything within our group, there are always the advisor champions. And I think that's key, because they essentially become the advocate. And it's really great from a peer-to-peer perspective for other advisors to speak to advisors that are using the tool, that are having success with the tool. And that certainly helps. So finding out, you know, who the ambassadors are for the various initiatives that you're rolling out, I think it helps. And of course, you know, it's not that you launch something and then just wait. It just takes consistent sharing of information. You know, you have to build a campaign when you roll something out. So you just want to ensure that you're consistently dripping on them, you know, spending the time to help them understand and break down any barriers that they might have in terms of resisting the technology.
That's great. So multiple touch points, providing a lot of educational resources, and of course, patience in understanding that these things do not 100% get implemented right away, right out of the gate, as much as all of us would love for that to happen, right? That's great. We do have one final bit before we get into the questions. I want to be very mindful of time because we're starting to go a little bit over. So maybe if we can go to the next slide. Is this something you guys want to answer maybe quickly? Just sort of one piece of advice that you would give for a new advisor, or even just for broader industry professionals as it relates to anything we've talked about today. I'll let's see, Bill, if you want to go first.
Embrace change. Always embrace change. You know, the one thing that I can tell you that is a constant in this industry is change. It's the only constant in the industry, is the fact that every day is a new day and something new is available to either help or hurt what it is that you're doing. And remember that your clients make most of their decisions emotionally. Doug said something earlier about telling a series of stories to get people's attention. If you can't tell stories in this industry that express to people's emotions, you're going to be in trouble. So embrace that change and learn to tell some good stories.
I love it. Diana or Doug, either or.
I'll take a run. I'll take a run quickly. Yeah, Diana. You know, I guess one of the things I'd say is that, you know, advisors pay for technology, but clients don't. Clients pay for value. So we want to make sure that our value proposition is being enhanced by technology, but it should never become our value proposition, right? We always have to understand that what we're delivering to clients in that advice side is it's served by technology, but don't ever confuse the technology with your value.
Great.
I would agree with that. I would say, you know, to everyone's point, yes, be open. I know that it might make you feel uncomfortable, but, you know, they say when you're uncomfortable, that's when you grow. And also, it is a well-known fact that the average age of an advisor in our industry is well into their 50s. So I guess I would say that I think that advisors really need to be mindful of their own succession plans and consider how they can best position their practice for maximum value. And certainly having a digital infrastructure that supports better client outcomes and also an enhanced digital client experience can only serve to add a value to their practice. So just some food for thought.
That's great. Thanks, Diana. Jean, anything that you would want to add as well from your lens?
Yeah, I think from a technology standpoint, we have interviewed a lot of broker dealers over the last few weeks, and one topic or one theme that seemed to rise to the top was integration over innovation. That, this is something that we've just talked about, that advisors do have a lot of technology at their fingertips right now. And so, enabling them to get educated on those technologies, integrating those technologies, streamlining the workflow process and creating that frictionless client experience, I think is really important. And as part of that too, some of these broker dealers said, well, we only buy technologies right now that solve a particular problem. So focusing those solutions, on solving problems for advisors.
Great. Thank you all for that. Before we wrap up, there's two outstanding questions. So I think we can go ahead and answer these ones live, actually. The first question here is, which of the technologies mentioned, so I think, Bill, this was when you were speaking, actually, which of the technologies mentioned do you think an advisor should start implementing first? So maybe, again, along the, what type of advice would you provide someone adopting technology? What type of technology in what area of their practice should they look to adopt first? I know that's opening up a can of worms there, and it's
that's
maybe
kind of a tough one.
It's
you
a
never
tough
know
one.
you never know how far down the trail somebody already is. So
Yeah,
it's what kind of issues are you having, and I promise there's probably a technical solution to the problem that you're having. Yeah, but for most people, for most advisors, I know for me, for a lot of years, it was just there's days when you feel like you're the Lone Ranger, the only person in the whole wide world that can do anything inside your practice. And when you start feeling that about a certain area in your practice, you need to find some technology that will help you in that area. But as I said before, and as Diana said, that embrace it, take a look at it, be open to the idea of that there is something out there. And even if you have to study and learn, you're never too old to sit down and learn how to do something. When the day comes in this industry that you say, I don't want to learn anything more, you're pretty much done.
right.
You
Thanks.
all who
Thanks,
perish.
Bill. Absolutely. So we've got one last question here, very relevant to the theme of estate planning. At what point in the client's life, would you recommend that they start an estate plan, or at least start to consider and say, hey, I probably need to, get my ducks in a row here?
If they own something, they need to have an estate plan on how they're going to deal with it, because the one thing in life that none of us can escape is death.
And taxes. Well, yeah. That's great. And anyone else want to add to that? I think it's pretty straightforward, that one.
Yeah, I would just say that, if we're a financial planner and we're charging for advice, part of that advice is estate planning advice. And just because somebody's in their 30s and their probability of passing is low, doesn't mean that we are able to shirk our duty to provide that advice. So I would say that, we should start doing that as soon as they become clients as part of our onboarding process. It sometimes takes a little while to get through all the aspects of planning, but I think it should be done right away.
Right. So think about it the moment they become a client. That way you've got that holistic approach already sort of taking place there with them.
And they're not going to leave you. When you're doing all these other things for them, the chance of them leaving you are just get a lot slimmer.
No, that's great. I love that answer. Awesome. So that's the end of the questions. We're all through it. So now we could just wrap up. I mean, personally, I had a lot of fun with everyone today. I learned a lot myself. So thank you all for, your expertise and your opinions and all of the great insight that you provided. FutureVault, of course, we're very thrilled that we were able to put on this event with Celent. Jean, thank you, for making that happen with us, of course. And, thank you to all of you. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Bill. Great conversations, really enjoyed it. And of course, to our guests for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us and to listening into the conversation. So take care, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.